Hey budget fam, it's Jordan from Jordan Budgets. Today we are doing a cash 101, a how to cash budget, a why to cash budget style video. If you are new to the cash budgeting world, hi, hello, welcome. I am Jordan. I have a cash budgeting channel here where I cash stuff every single week. We're going to talk about what that means. And I'm starting this new thing where I'm going to do this cash 101 series where we can talk about the basics of cash budgeting and kind of get into the details of what in the world everybody is doing with this cash budget situation. And if you are new here, please go ahead and subscribe if you would like to learn more through this Cash 101 series. We will then segue into a budgeting 101 series. Of course, having cash stuffings every single week kind of in the middle of these, this little series that I'm running. I would love to have you subscribe and stick around with us. This video is going to move rather quickly. You're gonna feel like I'm not answering all of the questions, and please feel free to leave questions down below because like I said, this is just an introductory style video. This is where when people are like, okay, I like what you're doing on YouTube. I am intrigued with what you're doing, but I don't quite understand what you guys are doing. Like what is happening? This is the video I'm pointing people towards. So this is just the very basic how to, why we do it, that kind of thing. It's not going to be as chatty as my cash stuffings and a lot of my videos. We're going to kind of try to hit some highlights. Any questions that you do have though, please leave them below. I have some, like a pretty good bit. I have a pretty good bit of ideas of videos that I'm going to be doing. However, if you have a question, please leave it because I would love to make sure I hit all of the questions and highlights throughout this series. Okay, so why do we cash budget? Like, why in the world we do this? Wouldn't it be so much easier to just swipe your card and, you know, kind of track it on the back end? Yeah, you could do that, and plenty of people do. However, as a cash budgeter, I heard something one time, and I'm sure a lot of us have heard this, and it's that it's so much easier to slide your card than it is to break up a $100 bill. And I feel like cash budgeting works because of the same principle and underlying thought of that, right? It's harder to spend cash than it is your card. With your card, it's very easy to, in my opinion, just go slide it. Yes, you can kind of track things on the back end, but that kind of feels more like tracking, not taking control of. And so I think cash budgeting works because you feel it a bit more. If you're setting aside money in your bill binder, for example, this is to pay like my mortgage, my electric for the house. So if I'm setting $400 aside every week, then there is no way whenever I pull this bill money on the first of the month to like pay for that month's bills, there's no way I'm gonna say, oh, but I can just take $100 from this really quick and buy that pair of shoes that I wanted. No, I planned this money. I've been hovering over this bills binder. And just to show you guys, again, we'll get into more details kind of as we go, but I've been hovering over this. I've been tracking this. There is no way when I pull this, what is it? Probably a couple $1,000s, few $1,000s. When I pull this money, I put it in the bank on the first, I am going to spend that time paying off my mortgage, paying off my electric, paying my car insurance, paying Amazon Prime, paying my homeschool bill. Like, I'm gonna be putting this money where I said it was gonna go. I've already put too much time and energy into it. It's so much easier whenever you are cash stuffing your bills. For example, not everybody cash stuffs bills either. We'll get into that in future videos, but saying you do cash stuff your bills. Say I put money aside because we just started saving for next Christmas. By the time next Christmas gets here, we should have $1,378 towards Christmas that we've been thinking about, we've been planning for all year. So I'm not gonna wanna just say, oh, well, I can buy myself some new makeup with that money because this money has already been planned and thought for, right? This vacation binder also, and the other kind of swing of things is I'm setting this money aside to use on vacation. So this binder is basically giving me permission to go on a vacation because I've set money aside for it. We were still able to pay our bills. It's okay if we're saving for a vacation. It kind of gives me the permission to use the money how I want to use the money and how I think the money should be used. So that's the basics of like the why cash budget. Yes, you could digital budget, and a lot of people do. A lot of people use cards. A lot of people do not prefer cash. That's fine. I'm just trying to give the alternative of why those of us that do cash budget love to cash budget. There's also just a fun element of it. There's just something fun about playing with your budget instead of saying, oh, I have to pay bills. To me, it's kind of like, oh, I get to put money into my bill binder, I'm almost ahead. Let me see if I can get a little bit more ahead. The same kind of high that people get from like impulsively spending, you kind of get that same little like jolt of energy and excitement by cash stuffing the money instead. So that is the basics of why we cash budget. In my opinion, it's just a better money management system. It reduces spending or impulsive and unneeded spending because it makes your money and your budget more tangible. Also, if you save that money, if you plan that money, you get to enjoy the money without actually spending it. Okay, so moving on to gathering supplies and setting up your budget categories. All of this that you see is stuff from my own personal shop. I do have an Etsy shop that's all cash budget related. I have a jordanbudgets.com is also the website that's going to be launching very soon. So you'll be able to shop there. However, you do not need all of this stuff. You can easily go on Amazon and get an $8 binder. I did not start with all this stuff, okay? And I actually would not recommend starting with these mini binders, but we can talk about that in another video. But you could check out my Etsy shop if you would like, but if you feel like, oh, it's expensive, go to Amazon, if you shop any other like cheaper websites, you'll be able to find some basic binders and envelopes, possibly not these envelopes, but some like zippered pouches for like $8. I'm going to put on the screen kind of some of the options that I would recommend, and I will link them below. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say recommend, okay? But I'll put some pictures on there to show you guys like what the listings might look like, but it's been a while since I bought on Amazon, so definitely read some reviews. Point is, you can start cash budgeting with just a couple like $8 binders. You don't need all of this. And I actually have an older video where I use the little accordion style. You guys know what I mean? It's like a coupon book, I think is what they call it. And it's like a little mini accordion style, and you can put in different little challenges or different money slots there. We'll talk about that more in other videos, but just know you don't have to start with this. But the basic supplies that you do need is you're going to need some sort of envelopes. You're going to need some sort of labels that you can put on those envelopes that can say like, this is me saving for my mortgage, and this is me saving for vacation, or this is me saving for groceries for next week. So you're going to need some sort of way to organize the money, some labels so you can know what you are organizing. You need cash, obviously. So like pull some cash from the bank. Like I said earlier, I do cash stuff every single week, and I kind of go through my budget every single week, but I get paid every week. So if you get paid every other week, maybe that's when you want to cash stuff is every other week. If you get paid monthly, maybe you just want to cash stuff monthly. I will tell you though, whenever I first started YouTube, I was working at a call center and I got paid every 2 weeks. Okay, I went and grabbed an envelope. So this is placeholder money. This is fake money. If you haven't seen anything like this, this is just money to like represent money that's in the bank. That's sort of a side topic. We're going to talk about that another time. But all of my cash is, and it's allotted binders. So I don't have any free at the moment. But what I would do when I got paid every 2 weeks, I would take cash from this envelope in particular. It's quite small. But I would take cash from the bank. I would divide up that 2-week pay into 2 different weeks. I would cash stuff 1 week immediately, like the cash stuffing for that week. And then the money that was like the second week worth of money, I would put that half of the money in just a clear envelope. I would put it with my budget binders, and I would not cash stuff it until the next week. So that for me was just creating a cash budgeting habit. I liked cash stuffing. I looked forward to it. I still do, but I'm saying like, even when I got paid every 2 weeks, I still found a system to where I was playing with my budget, playing with my trackers, playing with everything at least once a week, because it just felt more motivating to me to do it that way. So that's an option as well. So you might want to include it in your supplies. You might want to get some envelopes to kind of break up your money if you are going to be wanting to cash stuff weekly. And then I don't know if I mentioned it or not, in addition to the actual money, you need a pen so that you can kind of be writing, you can write on your trackers and kind of keep track of the date and how much you're adding or subtracting or whatever, because trackers will likely be a big part of your cash budget. So that's really all you need. You can spend as little or as much money as you want on stuff like that. Like I said, you can get a binder or 2 on Amazon for probably $8 each. You could go to Etsy and find a bunch of shops like mine that are going to be selling it for more, but that's only because a lot of us that are selling on Etsy or on our own website, that's our full-time job. That is stuff that we are hand creating, so it takes time. So it's going to be a little bit more expensive if you buy anything on Etsy versus if you get it on Amazon where it's like mass produced, right? So those are the supplies that you need. And then once you have gathered your supplies, you're going to want to set up some budget categories. This is something we're going to go way more in depth. But again, if this is the only video you watch, I just want to give you a basic overview. When you go to set up your first binder, I always recommend people really to start with one binder, maybe two, depending on how much you're trying to do. So let's again pretend it doesn't say bills here. I would say instead of breaking up all of your bills like this, I think a better starting spot is to think of your two most expensive bills. So for me, that might be mortgage and car. It would be mortgage and car would be my most expensive categories. So I would have maybe 12 categories to start. If you're not having custom binders or anything made, you would just basically have a tracker in there. This is also where your money would go. And then you would put any kind of blank label or pre-created label on there and write on it, this is for my mortgage. You wouldn't say this is for my mortgage. You would just write mortgage, right? And then you can start to track and save for that bill. This video is getting longer than I intended it to, so let's quickly move through this and we'll talk about it in more detail in another video. But basically what I would personally do, I would think of a couple bill categories, maybe 3. I would think of, because those are like need to have categories. So think of like 3 needs that you really need. Think bills. And then I would do 2 to 3 variable spending expenses that you really need, like gas for your car, groceries, something like that. And then I would use the remaining categories. Say you have 6 categories left. I would think of 3 things that you really want, and these individual trackers are a really affordable way to get into it instead of doing a whole binder. Because like this, for example, is a vacation binder. This is saving for a vacation or a road trip. It's one dedicated binder that at the end of it, you have $1,378. However, that's a whole binder. And if you don't have the resources to start with like one binder being for one particular thing, there are vacation trackers. That's like one tracker. You can buy printables on Etsy or whatever for a couple dollars. I would think of a few savings challenges that are for fun and a few that are needs. So maybe you need your oil changed. So you might have an oil change tracker. You might have pantry stockpile because that's something you do every winter, every summer. So like think of needs that are helpful like that. And then think of some fun things. Think of like saving for makeup or saving for, like I said, vacation, things like that. So make your very first binder. If you're new to this, I would make the very first binder a mix of things you need and things that are for fun, just trying to create that rhythm and that like encouraging yourself to do it more. Okay, let's talk about dividing up your income. So you understand why people would cash budget. You know the basics of what supplies you might need. In order to make sure we're paying all of the things, we need to have a good idea of how we are dividing up our budget. This is where you would need some paper, a pencil, and start writing out how much you think you need for everything. Now, budgets change constantly, so don't feel bad if you're wrong. But for this example, let's just say for my bills, I need $500 every week. For debt, I need $100 every week to get it paid off by the time that I want to get it paid off, or maybe that's my minimum payment. And then for Christmas, let's just say I want to cash up one of these categories every single week so that by the end of the year, I have $1,378. So I know I need to pull from the bank $604. So I need to pull $604 for that week. And then what is left in the bank account is what I actually have to spend on variable spending. If you want to take it a step further and go all cash budget, which a lot of people do and a lot of us do, you would add a variable spending binder to this, and that would include categories just like this bill binder is set up. It would include, instead of saying mortgage, it would say gas for the car, groceries, taking the kids to get fast food, you know, like whatever those weekly expenses are. Maybe you're stashing a little bit for self-care. And in that case, you would pull your full $1,000 that you have for the week, and you would make sure it all goes into cash binders and you're spending it from the cash, not from your cards. It's really important to figure out what your allocated amounts and needs are. And then it's important to stick to those, because that is the budget that's really going to like keep you on track. If your bills are $2,000 and you need $500 every single week, then don't put $300 in here if you can help it. You know what I'm saying? You want to put the full $500, so by the start of the month, you're ready for that month. It is worth noting that just as it is important to stick to your allocated amount, it is okay to change your binders at any point and adjust your budget. You might at first be putting aside $200 per week for groceries, and then you realize, because you're cash budgeting and you're tracking it better, you realize you spend more than that, or you realize you really don't need that much, because if you're watching how you're spending and you are trying to keep cash in that envelope, you can get away with spending a little bit less. It is definitely okay to adjust your budget. It's actually encouraged. I would say adjust away. You're going to be surprised as you cash budget, finding what your true needs are and finding how much you truly need to spend different places. Overall, I want to end this video by just saying cash budgeting can be a lot of fun if you let it be. If you are feeling in any way overwhelmed, if you are a cash budgeter or if you start cash budgeting, if you're feeling overwhelmed, in my opinion, it usually stems from having too many categories and trying to spread yourself too thin. There's no reason to try to do all of these binders at once, though I know so many of us do, and so many of us can do that. And there's seasons of life where I'm better at like spreading myself out over a bunch of binders. And then there's times where I go back and I'm like, you know what? Let me just focus on a bills binder. Let me just focus on some necessities and kind of rein myself back in, right? We're going to be spending the next couple weeks really talking more about the different types of binders and kind of how I would handle other things. I really want to leave you guys in this first video though, just kind of reiterating and stating, if it's not fun, you're putting too much pressure on it, and I think you might be stretching it a little bit further than it should be. This is something that is meant to be fun. And if you want to cash stuff your bills, but not cash stuff your, like, do savings challenges, for example, then do what works for you. There's no right or wrong way to do this. There's no like, you're successful if you're cash budgeting everything. I think there's plenty of situations where somebody can be just say cash stuffing for Christmas. If that is what is fun for you, if that's what's fun for them, then it's working. Then do that. So as we have this conversation more, I just want to leave you guys with this first video that is a bit of an overhead, an overview, and definitely, like I said earlier, let me know if there's more questions you would like answered. If you have questions and we're in the middle of me filming this series, then I will answer the questions in video format. If you're catching this video after it's gone up and we're no longer, you know, I'm filming this at the end of 2024. If that's the case, if you're catching me later, then I'll just respond directly to your comment there. I hope that you have as much fun in your cash budgeting journey as I have had in my cash budgeting journey. If you have any tips that you would like to share for others, if you're already a cash budgeter and you have ideas and tips and things to share, maybe things to clarify that I've said in this video, please also leave that down below. As always, thank you guys so much for being here. I love you, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.